Also a member of Higher Education Mission Executive Government of Andhra Pradesh. And he is also a member of E-Pragati team trained by ISB Government of Andhra Pradesh. Sir is also a research member in the Ethics Committee, Ayush Department, Government of India. He is also a member of PG Board of Studies Philosophy, Krishna University, and etc. Sir has also written books like Foundations of Indian Ethics in New Delhi in 2002. And Sir has also published an article in Telugu. Sir has all received State Best Teacher Award in 2012 and Best NCC Officer 4 times Achiever Awards. Sir has also received District Collectors Service Award 8 times and also his Excellency Governor's Gold Medal 8 times for his humanitarian services through Indian Red Cross Society. This is a very short profile about Sir. Now I hand over to Dr. Ela Ravi Garu to continue the session with his information and valuable knowledge. Thank you.
In the same phase of understanding. Sorry. Okay. Hi friends, I'm Dr. Ella and I thank Madam Bharati for kind words she has put up for me, and a very good morning to all of you. Um, this session is a kind of open thinking, right? I don't claim that I'm one of the best brains around, and that I'm called here to give you my expert opinion kind of thing. No, nothing of that sort. We're all on par with each other, and in fact, some of you are equipped with better brains than the one I got, and this is a kind of sharing academic interests and trying to look at things collectively together, right? So first, the theme I'm going to talk about is social distancing and other safety measures in campus, right? So now first point I want to deal with is that the kind of uncertainty we have between the post lockdown period and post COVID period. I somehow came to believe that the post COVID-19 period is quite long, far away. New Zealand is one country which is fortunate enough that they could talk about post COVID-19 period in their country, but in India, I believe it is not so near. So we're in the period intervening post lockdown and post COVID-19, and we do not know how long this period stretches, right? It can be 1 year, 2 years. I don't know. Right now, we cannot really jump to any conclusion that, within 6 months or within 1 year, things will get normal and, we can carry out our academic activities as normal and as usual as we used to do some time back. No, it's not going to happen so soon, I believe. If it happens, I'll be very happy, as, all of us are, right? So this keeping this uncertainty in mind, now I request you to look at the academic activity from a little long-term perspective, rather than some kind of ad hoc measures which can be implemented immediately and relaxed a little later. No, is not going to happen so soon. So we got to think of concrete measures which have to take up to recover academic system from the influence or impact of COVID-19. I think I am clear. So given this uncertainty, we got to prepare ourselves well and prepare ourselves strongly, and thinking that it's going to be there for some time at least. There are some people, though I don't, call them pessimists, but there are some wise people who are saying that we got to live with COVID-19, and it's going to be part of the human existence forever, for all the time to come. The COVID-19, the coronavirus has come for good, and we are going to live with it. Like we are living with influenza that causes cold, common cold. They are absolutely sensible. But for the time being, let's not be thinking in those terms, because for a period of time, the community would obviously enhance its its resistance to the microbe, and obviously after some time, we are better equipped. Our immune system will be better equipped to counter the COVID-19. So I'm not taking that extreme view also, right? So we can safely assume that this post-lockdown and post-COVID period would be roughly 1.5 years to 2 years, right? Maybe after 2 years, we'll be better immune, and our immune system, collective community immune system, will go really high, and we can, save it, right? Now, I come to the second important point, that college campus, corporate living, and collective learning. Now, let's ask a simple and very fundamental question. What is a college? College is basically, what I believe is a place where the accumulated knowledge is transferred from one generation to another generation through a process of learning. Roughly, this is what all education is about, right? Like one generation has accumulated knowledge, and it passes it on to next generation, and they work on it, and they improve, and they again pass it on to their next generation, and this process goes on, right from the period when the caveman invented how to ignite fire, and to the present day of our webinar, right? This is what has been happening in history. Like one generation passes on its knowledge to the next generation, and an educational or academic or educational institution is just a place where so many people, so many students, young people come together, and they take part in the process of learning, or this transmission of knowledge from one generation to another generation in their own way, and they do it collectively together. So college is a place where people learn collectively, right? Now, given this understanding of a college, it has two things. One is that corporate living together, right? So many students, they have a kind of life in the institution. From the moment they enter the gates of our college or our academic institution, till they leave the college, they have a kind of life, right? May it be a classroom session, may it be sports, may it be quiz, may it be some kind of discussion, or just whiling away time with friends under the tree, or having a chat during the lunchtime, making friends, or even fighting, and there's a kind of life, a busy, bustling life that goes on among the students all the time, from the moment they enter the college until they, go out of the college or the institution. So it's basically a place where people live, right? college is not just a set of classrooms. No, it is where people live. So we have to take care of these lives. We have to take care of these college, corporate life patterns, right? That's one thing. And again, collective learning. And this learning happens collectively. We do not teach individual students all the time, right? We may take someone, a slow learner to aside and, we might teach him for 1 hour or 2 hours. But usually, we teach them in collectivity, like, we teach a set of students. So there's a kind of collective learning. We give assignments in general and all the students in the class, they work on it and get back to us. So the learning is basically collective. So collective life and collective learning. These two things happen in a college. Now, given the COVID-19 situation, how are we going to deal with it? That where collectivity is a kind of, now a taboo. Now, people can't just come together as they used to come earlier in a college and, shake hands and do high fives and play around, hug around each other and, talk about coming close. And these things can't take place now. So the very, corporate life, the collective life and the collective learning has been severely affected. And so the college life and college learning have really become a process, the processes which need to be attended seriously by us, because we are the custodians of the students as well as the learning process. We teachers, apart from our, academic management and administrative things, we teachers, we have, higher levels of responsibility as to how to deal with this collective life and collective learning process without making the students COVID-19 patients. Even a single COVID-19 patient, he can ruin the whole setup. Imagine, we suddenly find that, one of our students has been, proved positive, corona positive. What happens? Imagine. They'll come and take the whole class. They might ask you to shut down your college. So the college and our classroom system is more vulnerable than ever, right? I'm not telling you all this to scare you. I'm telling you all this only to make you realize that, how careful we have to be, how cautious we have to be in the college, and how to create awareness among our students and how to prevent them from coming together and bumping into each other so that they spread, COVID-19 and the whole colleges or the institution is shut down for this, sake of few people who haven't been, sufficiently cautious or who were negligent towards, the kind of precautions they are supposed to take. This is a serious issue. So, my dear friends, we are dealing with a serious situation, and don't take it easily. Learning, that anyway happens. I mean, that's a different topic, right? As the speaker before me has rightly emphasized, we have to ensure a lot of things, outcomes, basic, learning outcomes, course outcomes, and those what you call the program outcomes, and that's there. What are we expected to do, and how excellent we have to make our students, and how to really make them brilliant and excellent in their domains, and how to make them industry ready. These are all questions there. They are right there. But more than that, first of all, institution has to be kept alive and kept open. In order to do that, we have to take care of our people, our students, who are just like our children. right? And we have to make proper arrangements towards this. And now, uh, let's come to the kind of COVID-19 protocols and the difficulties in implementing them. Right, our state governments, our respective state governments issued, uh, proper guidelines, and the district collector in each district issues a set of, guidelines based on the general guidelines issued by Government of India, right? They talk about social distancing, they talk about sanitization of sanitizing the whole room, classrooms, the premises, the toilets, and there, and so many guidelines, right? To ensure that uh, that we make our vulnerable students really safe and ensure their safety and protection from COVID-19. Guideline implemented, and there are so many. And the administration, of course, the college administration, the college management would obviously, take all those guidelines into, consideration, and they would do their best. The management, would sanitize the rooms, give the rings and all that at the amenities, water points, or, toilets, or, in the field or in the classroom. That's there. But apart from all the measures taken by the administration and management, we teachers also have a very important and vital role in implementing them, in making our students follow those rules, follow the guidelines. So, friends, don't think that, following the protocols of COVID-19 is the headache of only management or administration or the principal or the office. No, no, no. They're all there. They'll be there. They'll be there to support these, protocols, and, make all the necessary arrangements to for us to, follow these protocols. But, we as teachers have to, ensure that our students follow these protocols, and they will be safe, right? So we have very important responsibility of implementing the COVID-19 protocols, right? Managements and administration, they are there to, support the or make arrangements for us to follow. But, we are the people who have to follow ourselves and, make our students follow those guidelines. So that's, we teachers have to understand that, lot of burden, or the majority, major portion of the burden has to be, borne by us on our shoulders, right? We are the people who can influence the students directly. Management cannot go to each student and tell, be careful. We are the teachers. We have to go and tell each student, by enhancing their levels of awareness on, corona, and do the rest. So please realize that, we are the vital link in protecting our institution from closing down. Like take the case of, Seoul, they opened the schools, and after some time, they again had to close them because, they realized that it's not really viable because, they could not control it. Now, we should not make this mistake. We have to learn from the failures of others and other countries where they started schools and colleges. What happened there? Where did they go wrong? Let's not do the same mistakes which they did. Right? So we have to learn from others' experience. The wisest man is one who learns from others' experiences, right? So, go through all that. What happened, where the schools are opened, and what happened, for example, the Switzerland is one country where they're believing that, the community has to develop their immunity on their own. So open up everything. Let the, community develop its immunity. It's happening there. But, we haven't opted for that model. We opted for lockdown. because ours is such a vast country, big country with such huge population. You cannot open up people to expose to the corona, and if something goes out of our hands, we don't have the medical system or medical infrastructure to take care of all those people. So we had different options, because and our think tanks at the national level have really gone through all these aspects, and they opted for it. Lockdown is one measure we took up, and now because of the economic compulsions, we are coming out of the lockdown, and now we have these challenges of post-lockdown scenario, especially in the college and academic institutions. Now coming to the main challenges, dear friends, all these challenges are already known to you. You know all these challenges. I'm here only to reinforce the fact that these challenges are very strong. At least we should not be complacent so far as these challenges are concerned. I mean, we don't have any right to be so, because it directly concerns the lives of our students and the future of the very institution which is giving food to us. Right? So I want to talk about the challenges. So somebody, slide 2, right? The first challenge is, as many of you rightly, are worried, can we control these youth? These young people are so exuberant, right? They are energetic. And especially after coming out of lockdown for such a long time, now, they are bubbling, with energy, bubbling energy, they're bundles of energies. Like, they want to go out and, hug everyone they see, every friend they see, forgetting that, there's a challenge of COVID, there's a, possibility of catching coronavirus. And they're not bothered about this, right? They're exuberant. Now the question is, can we control them? This is not a small question, right? I mean, look at our own children at our home. Take the very case of your children. Do they listen to you all the time? Can you stop them meeting with others all the time? Can you stop them going and playing with other people all the time? Without being rude to them. We cannot stop them. You really got to get angry with them, warn them seriously, right? Scare them to stop them from going out and talking to people and playing with people. We always have to remind them, no, wear your mask when you go out. No, don't go so close to the strangers. Remind them all the time. And it is exactly the same kind of children that come to our college, right? I mean, like, our students are kids of somebody else, right? And those kids are just as good as our own kids. And controlling our own kids, how difficult it has been during the lockdown period. And now it is going to be far more difficult to control them. And one lucky part is that, the students and young people, they respect teachers. Though they love their parents, they respect their teachers. So that is one face-saving factor. Because we have some respect, and they are somehow, their mindset is so favorable to take the orders or instructions from teachers. That is the luckiest part, right? So now there is a scope for us to control them. Now there is a possibility for us to really, control their activities, their behavior, their conduct, their movements, and you can give them awareness. And this traditional respect for the teacher, right? The kind of Guru Devo Bhava, the kind of, that is a face-saving thing for our country, for our institutions. Now you have to really play a vital role, and you have to exploit that kind of respect the students have towards you in order to control them, right? So the first question is, like youthful exuberance, whatever the students have is a challenge. And at the same time, the respect they have there for their teachers is one key element. It's a kind of key in our hands with which we can manipulate them a little so that they take all the precautions. Now, second challenge is, common amenities, common facilities, and common amenities. And in a college or in any academic institution, the students have to share common amenities. May it be drinking water, may it be toilets, may it be library, right? May it be, what you call them, the common dining hall, dining place where they open up their, carriages and they eat, right? The playgrounds, and especially the classrooms. All these have to be shared. All these amenities have to be commonly utilized by all these people at a time. At least they share. If not all at a time, they share. So this common facilities are, the common, what you call amenities and facilities which they have to use. They pose a threat to us. What if, when you ring the bell, all of them go once and, go to the, dining place, they use the, hand washers and, toilets, and they go around, indiscriminate way here and there, they bump into each other, and they sit, all of them come together and sit at some place and open their carriage and they start eating, chatting, talking to their friends. These things happen. How are we going to control them? This is another challenge, right? I hope you agree with me. And I don't see any great institution, however great it might be, however, disciplined the students might be, or however great the administration and teachers might be in, what you call, implementing discipline, and kids are still kids. Young people are still young people. They do all kinds of things, they run, they run to the amenities, right? As soon as you ring the bell. So that is a serious problem. So again, like not alone classroom, we'll come to the classroom teaching a little later, because that is the most important thing we are going to talk about. But, sports and games, can we conduct sports and games, and action activities where people, students come together, or flock together to do certain activities? That's again another challenge, right? How can you, conduct a kabaddi, tournament or kabaddi game without, these students coming together, right? Impossible, right? They cannot play kabaddi from a distance, and like that, whenever you have to, maybe individual events you can do, right? Javelin throw, or, these things you can do, but, where there are, the teamwork, and team games and team sports where, people flock together necessarily to play. That's a little difficult, and, that's a challenge. And then action, for example, NCC, NSS, and other service activities like Red Ribbon clubs, Youth Red Cross, clubs, and there are so many clubs there. Nature club, or, other club activities. These things have to be, played collectively, and you cannot imagine them without, students flocking together, right? This is again a challenge. And now coming to classroom ambience. Usually, that in most of the institutions we have, the classrooms are, usually by and large 20 by 30 size, and so in some places they are 30 by 30, and maybe in some institutions the labs are quite wide, and size of 2 or 3 classrooms put together, maybe by 90 by 30 or 120 by 30, like that. uh, but usually our classrooms are generally small, and in many institutions we have dearth of classrooms. We don't have sufficient number of classrooms, and in each classroom um, we have barely enough furniture, or the dual desks or tables or whatever, uh, just enough to make all your students 30 numbers or 40s or 60s to sit, right? I mean, most of our institutions, we do not have the luxury of having very big halls for less number of people. No, no, no. That does not happen. Even in big institutions like ISB or IITs, the classrooms are just adequate, just enough to accommodate their 30 or 60 number class, right? Now, given these COVID protocols and social distancing, how are we going to deal with them? How can you make 60 of your students sit in the same classroom, forgetting this social distancing? And how can you do that? Knowing very well that, this might lead to or trigger the situation out of your hands. Big question, right? So these are all challenges. Library and resource sharing. A library is one place where we sit together, or a lab is some place where we sit together. You have to come to a computer lab, or physics lab or chemistry lab. And so the research sharing has to be done, right? I mean, we cannot have suddenly enhance our infrastructural abilities, infrastructure, what you call facilities to cater to very high number of people, making them maintain the social distance, right? We cannot build big labs and big classrooms overnight. No, it's not possible, and very expensive also, and our country does not have that much of financial resources to cater to these things. So your classroom size is the same, the number of students are the same, but now you have to manage them, maintain social distance. So this is a real challenge. And now, again, we have these young people have a tendency to flock together, come together in friendship groups, academic clubs. Generally, they come and chat together. We have our canteens, right? Some of the colleges have their own canteens. They don't have, they go out and have their chai and, talk to their friends. So all these questions are there. So now how can you stop them? Can we really stop them? Very difficult, no? Right? Realize it. That, the levels of difficulty in stopping these people. No, don't meet your friends. No, keep distance. Right? Even outside your compound wall, they are going to meet. They're going to play around. They're going to push around each other. Right? I mean, try to look at the kind of activity that takes place at a bus shelter near a college or a school. Students are jubilant, exuberant. They push each other, right? They hug each other. They bump into each other. This is a challenge, right? And then, we also have many of the colleges and academic institutions have academic clubs where, these people have to come together, right? And we have to share their common amenities and, these labs and, consultation rooms and counseling rooms and whatnot, apart from the classrooms. This is a challenge. And then, young people, youthful, they love to have fun and frolic. You can't keep them sit like this for hours. They want to have fun. They love fun. It's true. I mean, you know it. I mean, we were young some time back, right? So we know how we behaved with our friends, how we wanted to have fun with our friends, how we moved around, how we talked to each other, how we came together and put our hands around the neck of our friends, how we hugged each other. We have fun. Can you stop your youth from having fun and frolic? Again, a great challenge. These things might appear very silly and funny, but nevertheless, they are serious, challenges, my friends. We have to think of all of these things. I'm trying to, put these things very informally, but once you look at the kind of, vulnerability these activities and these challenges throw our students into, they are bewildering. Really, it is really bewildering. How can we really control all these people, the young, exuberant, and powerful, dynamic young people from doing all these things which they normally do in a college? In a sense, now there is a possibility that if there is if all these things are not there, they might even they might not even prefer to come to a college. I mean, like, college becomes a really boring place where I can't meet my friend, where I can't push my friend, where I cannot hug my friend, where I cannot go and talk to my friends in a canteen, where I cannot imagine students standing 6 feet distance to each other in a circle and talking. Can you imagine that? Very difficult, very difficult. So things are not as easy as they appear to be, because now, I mean, we need to bring in a kind of huge metamorphosis of the very life in the college, very activities in the college, very learning process in the college. This is not an easy task, my friends. We all have to work really, really harder to save our, children. I mean, to save our young people, to save this generation. It's not merely a matter of getting A grade or B grade in the examinations. It is, the very question of living healthily or not. The sustainability of your institution, the sustainability of the academic system in this country is now hinges on your attitude, the attitude the teacher takes, the attitude with which now a teacher works, the kind of mindset with which a teacher works now. Now, the whole academic system and education in this country hinges on one great personality called teacher. And each one of you, being teachers, now you are more responsible. Earlier, we used to have limited responsibilities. I go to, I have 3 or 4 classes in a day. So I complete it. I just go and read. Okay. I give them notes. I talk to them. I explain them some things. And, after 3 or 4 hours, I come out of the class, maybe a few assignments to correct. That's all over. I don't take any work home. Mostly I go home happily, right? Watch TV or maybe some reading and then sleep happily. And I go to the college next day. That's all, not much. This, anyway, this is we think that this is a very great responsibility that a teacher is playing, that, I am educating the generations, I'm educating the young people, your academic proficiency, your, knowledge in your domain. These things mattered. The way you deliver the content, the way you are punctual to the college and the classes, all these things matter. And that's all, no other responsibility. Now you have to take the responsibility of the whole generation. You have to take the responsibility of sustaining your own college. Now you have to take the responsibility of keeping these young people healthy and involve them into the learning process with a set of rules. Now you have the responsibility of implementing protocols. Now you have the responsibility of making your students accept your dictates with regard to implementation of protocols, observation of protocols. So now, the teacher's role has been enlarged, enhanced, widened than what it used to be. Think of it. Really, is it not? Right? Now, in this background, we have to work out our strategies. In the background of this harsh reality, candid acceptance of vulnerability, we have to chalk out our strategies. We have to think of the post-lockdown higher education. We might be thinking that, many of us might be thinking that as we have done, as we have been carrying out this online courses and, this virtual classrooms and all that, we will do that. What is there? No. Once you enter the college, things change. Your own security first. You have to take care of your own security, right? Before you take care of others. You don't know, where the infecting microbes are. You are really afraid, we are really afraid, whether to touch the surface on a table or not, because we don't know who touched it earlier. And you have to carry personal sanitizers like this and, put it on your hands every now and then, right? Believing that, that's going to save you. And, you have to carry your mask to take care of your face. Assuming that, you should be, it's going to save you. You doubt whether to sit on the chair where some other teachers sat on it in the last period. How do you know that it is safe to sit now in the same seat, in which the teacher who took the earlier class sat? Serious questions, right? I mean, horribly serious questions. We have to live with all this. We have to take care of ourselves, and we have the that, the burden of, safety of the students and the college on your shoulders. You are the people who have to work it out. Nobody else can help it. The administration and management They can only make arrangement. They can buy sanitizers, or they can, hire some people to do it all the time, sanitize the walls and classrooms, benches and all that. That's all. But the real life, you have to live along with your students. Serious challenge, my dear friends. So, how are we going to cope up with this kind of situation, this kind of scenario, this kind of backdrop? The moment you enter the college, right from admissions to examinations, taking classes, assignments, right? So these are the things I want to share a few ideas with you, right? These might not be really great ideas that all of you can, don't know so far, and I'm putting forth them for the first time in the history of, academic discussions. No, like these are all the things which but I'm trying to reinforce the kind of commitment, our commitment towards these kind of solutions and measures, right? So now I come to the third important, solutions. What kind of solutions do we have? Right? Now the major problem in the college, or major challenge, I don't call it, let's call it challenge. Challenge in the college is that, students flocking together. It's a major challenge, either in classroom or in the library or in the canteen, wherever, or the toilets, wherever. Students flocking together, coming together and grouping together without following social distance and, this masks and sanitizers, without taking proper precautions. They are vulnerable to get the infection, and they might carry this to their homes, and they give it to all the members of their respective families. And so students' conduct and behavior patterns are going to decide, right, or influence the general health conditions of their families as well as the whole society. Because every household has students, every household has kids that go to school or a college. So now the academic institutions, the colleges and schools are going to be the epicenters of infection or safety. If they are not safe, they are going to be the epicenters of the infection. Right? I hope you you understand the kind of grave situation our academic institutions have to work through. Once the colleges are open, we throw open our gates to students to get in, right? You cannot say our responsibility is limited only to teaching classes. We're not bothered about their health. You can't say that. As teachers, we cannot say that. We are worried about the health of our students. We are worried about health of their families, because their families are just like our own families. Their kids are just like our own kids. Imagine your kid goes out to a school and comes back with the COVID-19 and distributes among all the members of your family. Imagine this situation. And because your family is infected, the police come and the government comes and evacuates the whole apartment, take them, all of them, into quarantine. One kid, one student can really do a lot of harm if he or she does not follow the protocols in the college, and now there is no other go but that we have to, ensure that our students follow these protocols: social distancing, wearing masks, sanitizers, right? Not coming together, no group activities, right? And proper and safe and disciplined utilization of use of common amenities, and still doing all this, they are expected to do well in their academics. They can't stop learning, right? Declaring this year as a 0 year, academic zero year is the last resort. Hope we won't go that far. That is the last resort. No academics this year. It is 0 year. That is the last resort. If we all of us fail, we're not effective, right? We horribly fail, and schools and colleges become, epicenters of, explosion of COVID-19, and government does not have any other alternative but to close down our schools and colleges. Then, the last resort comes 0 year for academics. Hope that won't happen. In order that won't happen, in order to ensure that it won't happen, we got to be careful. Apart from this, in that 0 academic year is a kind of, horrible, inconceivable consequence that, apart from, stopping the whole learning process, or, seriously affecting the learning process, many of the teachers would lose their livelihood. Managements won't be in a position to pay salaries to teachers who are sitting home without collecting any money from the students after closing the institution itself. How many colleges can pay you? How far can government support you with full salary, even if you are a government teacher? So now we got this responsibility of, great responsibility of safeguarding our students as well as our, institutions from COVID-19. It's our bounden duty. Even if you fail a little bit in imparting education, in, excelling in delivering the content or making your students really intelligent and bright, doesn't matter. But if you fail in keeping the campus a safe place, you are affecting the very basis of the education system. So there is no scope for even slightest neglect so far as safety concerns that have to be adhered to in your college and academic institutions. There is no other go. You've got to work it out. You've got to be stern so far as implementing the, these issues, these protocols, these safety measures. And what are they? How can you do that? That is all. Now, as we realize, as we realize that, students flocking together is the major issue in a college where collective learning takes place. From the moment they enter the college, they have tendency to flock together. Very hardly do we find institutions where, they walk like soldiers with an equidistance, forming files, lines of people. We hardly find any school or college doing that, right? If there is one, Great. Right? So what has to be done? Now we have to minimize the number of people that enter a college at one time. This we can do by adopting, thank you. Please excuse me. Thank you. So the first strategy could be that, if we have one common, time of opening of the college or institution, you find all the people coming at once, simultaneously, and you can't control. Even all the teachers stand at the gate, you can't control, so many hundreds of students coming into the college, entering the college at one time. You can't stop them from flocking together, coming together. So one of the strategies could be that, we have staggered timetables. For example, for first year students, the college starts at 8 o'clock in the morning. For the second year students, the college starts at 9 o'clock in the morning. For the third year students, college starts at 10 o'clock in the morning. So you can make the incoming numbers of the students by dividing them into 3 groups. So at 8 o'clock, only the first year people get into the college. So the number is reduced to 1/3 of the total number. So on and so forth. At 9 o'clock, second year, 10 o'clock. This might help us because now the number of students that enter the college at any given point of time, at the 3 points of time, will be less. So it might be a little more manageable for us to, ensure their safety and protocols. Right? How do you work out your timetables is a different thing. You can do it always. The people who come first at 8 o'clock may leave the college at 2 o'clock. Those who come at 9 o'clock, they may leave the college at 3 o'clock. Or those who come at 10 o'clock, at 4 o'clock, they leave the college. Right? So the total number of hours you can keep the same. Now, you might ask me that, okay, for students, fine, but what about the teachers? All of us have to come at 8 o'clock, right? So we have longer hours. The college timings are stretched and we have to be in the college for longer hours. Here, the managements and administrations can be a little, considerate, right? From 8 o'clock to evening 5 o'clock, there will be really long duration. So you can ask the teachers, formulate your timetables in such a way that, the teachers can also have some, say 6 hours or 7 hours stretch of working hours and they can leave. You can formulate your timetable in such a way that no teacher needs to be in the college for more than 6 hours or 7 hours. You can do that. If some sacrifice has to be done by the, some teachers who have to be there in the college for, longer hours of duration, we have to do that because for the sake of our institution, for the sake of our students, and for the sake of our own livelihood. This is one strategy, staggering timetables, staggering times, it can really work. Right? Now, this is I know, I understand you have so many questions on this, right? I understand well that, I mean, you people, there might be hundreds of questions running in your minds that, how are you going to do that? But, you people are intelligent enough. I mean, you can sort out your own strategies. I'm just giving an idea, basic idea, which can be implemented given the proper cooperation and coordination between the managements and faculty, administration and faculty. This is one idea, right? You can work out its details. I'm not trying to give you a kind of blueprint. Follow this, everything will be solved. No, I'm not giving you any blueprint. You people have to work out your own things according to your situations, according to your conditions, according to the local conditions, and the kind of problems you have. Right? In some of the colleges, the number of faculty might not be sufficient to take this into consideration, staggered timetables into consideration. Right? And some of the colleges might not be having sufficient manpower to hold to this idea. That's all you have to work out. Where, how much, how far, and how much can you implement this? That's all your headache. You have to. I mean, you are intelligent people there. You are intellectuals, and you can do that. Just a little workout can do that. And in case, even then, there might be some colleges where enormous, very big college with thousands of students. Then I propose shift system, right? For arts, say morning 8 o'clock to 12:30, or 1 o'clock, right? For commerce, right? Say 10 o'clock to 3 o'clock, right? Science from 12 o'clock to 5 o'clock, something like that, right? Usually, the number of students in arts and science would be lesser than those in commerce in many of the colleges. According to your conditions, or you can have two virtual, split, where, in the morning shift and you have evening shift. In the morning, you have half of the students. In the afternoon shift, you can have half of the students, and work it out. Right? You can do it. Now, before you follow all these things, the most important thing is that you have to create awareness among your student community, campus community as such, and you have to bring in behavioral change communication. Behavior change, right? Awareness and behavior change communication has to be carried out. This is the precondition. We have changed the mindsets of the management, administration, faculty, non-teaching, students, their parents, all those stakeholders must change their mindset. Now, all of us, all the stakeholders in the college campus community have to change their mindset. Right? We have to expand our levels of awareness. Right? And there must be definite behavioral change in the common patterns of our conduct in the college. Right from entering the college to entering the classrooms, following up all the, safety precautions, right? Masks, sanitizers, right? Whatnot, and, social distance, right? Proper use and cleanliness at the amenities. Now, people, 4 or 5 people can't go and drink water from the, water point at one time. They can't do it, right? Similarly, you cannot have the, intervals or the intermission at the same time. because imagine if you give them interval at only 150 minutes or 20 minutes recess, at the same point of time, all the students come together and they rush to the water point, and it will be bizarre. So you also have to change this. Now, maybe the bell ringing must be very difficult, because, you have different classes for different timings for different, sections of students. And all these are there. And all this has to be kept in mind. We must be ready to implement all these things, right? So, lot of this awareness campaign has to be done. Don't try to head start with your academics as soon as the students enter your college campus. I understand that, due to COVID-19, the duration of the next semester, the ensuing semester, has drastically shortened. It has shrunk into just insufficient time even to, carry out or implement your syllabi, complete your syllabus. I understand that. Even then, give sufficient time, first few days, only to educate the students about COVID-19 and how they got to behave in the college. Implement them strictly so that they internalize these patterns of behavior with enhanced awareness, and they have to continue the same pattern of behavior or conduct for a few semesters to come. So the first 1 week, devote the whole time to make students understand how vulnerable they are unless they follow all the protocols of COVID-19. It's not waste of time. If you don't do this, I'm telling you, my dear friends, we will run into a kind of, irreversible situation where you can't help anything except closing the institution, except stopping the very process of teaching and learning, and in a sense, ruining the whole careers of people. I hope you understand the seriousness of this. Dedicate the first few days only for awareness and behavior change, communication. Right? Even if we have to, speed up our delivery of content and speed up the syllabus, and, you may have to reduce the syllabus. I mean, universities are also now ready to cut down on this syllabus. That's a different thing. I mean, how far we will be successful academically, how far we will be successful in imparting the complete set of the syllabi we framed out. I mean, that's it, but it is different thing. First, you have to sustain your college and class and your own academic institution. So devote enough time on awareness and behavior change. Ensure that you stand at the water points and ensure that everybody walks in a proper way, drinks and goes. Or, takes water with a bottle and goes. Right? All the lecturers should also take care of that every day. At the end of the class, the rooms are, sterilized, or, sanitized. We, the staff which takes care of cleaning the classrooms and verandas, they need to work harder. If we need, we'll take the service of the students themselves. But ensure that the classrooms are safe. They are properly sanitized. Educate your staff, educate your students, if needed, educate your managements, educate your administration, but ensure that your college remains a safe place, right? Despite our taking all the precautions, there might be some accident and there might be a few cases. But that doesn't and should not stop us from taking the sufficient precautions and sufficient care to safeguard our environment, our classrooms, our premises, our campus, our students, right? This we have to do, because you do not have control over the conduct of these people outside the college. You can't control it, but inside the college you have to control it. Outside the college you can't really help. You are helpless about when you don't have any control over their conduct. But inside the campus you must enforce the kind of discipline that is needed to safeguard the interest of the class as a whole, and of course the campus and the learning process, right? And now, use of ICT. Many people are thinking that I know many of our teaching community, members of our teaching community, they're thinking that well, why do we need to open colleges? Let this ICT thing continue. I can attend a class, at my wish and will, and I can work from home. The students can learn from home all the time. Why can't we continue this ICT enabled e-classrooms, or the online classes, and we can do that. I really doubt this. How far can we do it? We cannot do it for a long time. However good teacher you might be, but if a student has to sit in front of a laptop or a mobile and learn all the way your classes, very difficult. It won't happen, right? And you can't have control over his attendance. You can't control it. So use of ICT, right? Information communication technology is good, but it has its own limitations, right? If you stretch this session by 1 more hour, I'm sure most of you will collapse. So realize that ICT has its own limitations. So you cannot continue with ICT all the time for the coming few years till we go to the period of post-COVID-19. No. ICT can be used, but it has its limitations. What are you going to do with the practicals? What are you going to do with the kind of things the students learn from us by directly interacting with us one-to-one? Colleges have to be reopened, right? So my dear friends, don't be under the illusion that you can continue with ICT and you can have online classes and you can work from home and they can learn from home and they somehow pay the fee for learning from home. This is not going to happen. We have to, at one point or the other, sooner or later, we have to reopen our college and we have to continue with the work as usual, but this time with a little caution and by following certain protocols to ensure the health of the students, staff, and the community as a whole, right? So don't rely much on the ICT. ICT is a good tool. I don't contradict it, but it has its limitations. You cannot really teach everything on the line and you expect the students to excel. No. After, if you seriously teach online, right? After 2 or 3 classes, the student would not lift the phone. He would not enter your Zoom class. Right? Consultation, fine. You can talk to him. Have you read this? Are you preparing well for the examinations? Have you done my assignment? See, look at that. That question is very important. This you can do, but you cannot really, continue teaching the whole syllabus online. No, it's very difficult. I don't think it makes sense. Now, what is that we can do? Now, I propose what is called convergence mode. Now, I told you that, we'll talk about this classroom situation later. Now we have come to that. Every classroom, say, can accommodate 60, a classroom can accommodate 60 people. And if all the 60 people come at once to the class, you cannot maintain social distance. In order to maintain social distance in a classroom, the number should be only 1/3 of it. Right? Maybe one student for a bench. So assume that you have 60 members in your classroom and you have 20 benches in your class, right? On each bench, 3 people sit, right? Now you have to make only one student sit. Now you cannot push the walls of the classroom and enlarge it. Now what can we do? We can do some kind of convergence. Consider this. This might not be a great idea, but consider this. Think of it. You might get better ideas. For example, I have 60 students in my class, and I ask my students come in 3 batches, 20, 20, 20. Monday, 20 people, Tuesday, 20 people, Wednesday, 20 people. And on the 4th day, again, the people who came on Monday would also come on Thursday, Tuesday people on Friday, and those who attended class on, Wednesday would come on Saturday. Okay? So physically, I'll be teaching only 20 people at any given point of time, on any given day. Right? Then what about the rest of the 40 people? Do you expect me to teach them twice? Same syllabus, right? On Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And again, the next chapter on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Everything 3 times, thrice. That's difficult, But there is one solution. Now, you can bring in ICT into picture. For example, if the administration or management could spend some money on it, and they can, record, live recording of whatever I am teaching the 20 people in front of me, if they can record it live, and with the help of Moodle, they can telecast it to the students sitting at home, the rest of the 40 people sitting at home, so that they can watch my class on their mobiles, and there will be continuation of the same class on the next day. They again watch it on their mobiles with Moodle, and on the 3rd day, they can anyway come to the college. So my class, my 60 students, at any given point of time, 20 will be attending the class right in front of me, sitting and learning, and 40 people will be learning online, and they will also get a chance to sit in front of me every 3rd day. Right? So the students are not totally absent from the college. There is interaction with the teacher. At the same time, we are using ICT. At the same time, we are also ensuring social distance by allowing only 1/3 of the class attend the classroom, sit in the classroom on any given day, at any given point of time. I mean, this one idea, this might not work in some colleges, this might work in some colleges, or the management might be ready to shell down so much of money to make this happen, Moodles and all. You may have to develop a viable live telecast of your class and take it to the homes of the students. It might have certain technical and financial and procedural implications and challenges. I accept that, but think if this can be worked out. This is one of my suggestions, and you might be having better ideas too, right? Hope they will come forth. And the last one, as I told you, is zero academic year, which I do not support. Learning must be continuous, both for teachers and students. Imagine, what kind of transformation that would take place in a student's mind if he is kept away from learning process for one full year. Will it be able to, come back and recover into academics again? What happens to us if we have to, just relinquish our teaching activity and learning activity for 1 year? How long will it take for us to, do rest of things? Come back. So now the recovery of academic system largely hinges on the teachers like you, and I wish you really, to think on these lines seriously, take these challenges seriously. My intent is not that, I'm able to give you solutions for all the questions we have posed ourselves, right? But I believe that, whenever there is a problem, there must be a solution. Karl Marx once said, this contribution to political economy, I believe, contribution to critique of political economy, where he said, that mankind sets for itself only those problems which it can solve, right? So whenever there is a problem, there is a solution. If there is no solution, right, there must be something wrong with the problem itself. It is not a problem at all, right? If there is no solution to some issue, then it is not a problem at all, right? So by the time when we recognize something as a problem, there must be some solution, and hope all of us will come together and collectively as intellectual community will work on it, and will do whatever that is best needed to retain the academic progress and process and the future of the youth, your students, your institutions, and our country at large, right? I'm trying to trigger a few ideas into it. I don't claim that I have given you complete set of solutions to all the kinds of problems you might be having in your college, because the local conditions prevail, right? Your own conditions, your own situations, your own administration, you have your own management and all that. I understand that. I try to give you the same kind of, triggering points on which, you can really think of, and you come out with your own solutions, and you are capable of, as intellectuals, as highly learned people, and as the people who are going to, mold the very future of this nation. You people are capable of doing that. You people are capable of coming out with brilliant solutions, innovative solutions, and I hope that you will do that. And I think it is time. I wish you all, good luck. There was one of my friends whom I met recently, and there's one insight he gave me. So he asked me a question like, Ravi, what do you think is the main reason for not so much of spread of COVID-19 among Indians, right? Because we are, 1.3 trillion, and such a big nation with such huge population, a few thousand people, then it was only a few thousand getting this COVID infection is really small percentage. And what do you think is the reason? So I told him, our police are working wonderful, our the doctors are working great, and our the sanitation workers are doing wonderful job, and our people are fully aware, and there is lockdown, and now the India is aware, and now that's how we could contain the infection. He laughed and told me, no, it's not police, it's not municipal people, and it's not a lockdown. I asked him, then what is it? He said, sheer luck. Sheer luck that not so many people are getting it infected. I wish that kind of sheer luck to all of you, right? You stay safe, right? You continue your academic activity. I wish that your students will have also the kind of sheer luck which he talked about, and your institutions will flourish, and we get through these hard times safely. We sail through this, this disturbed waters safely, and we'll be talking about post-COVID 19 time, when we completely get rid of this infection, and will be national like what New Zealand is right now. And I wish that very soon we'll be having such kind of post COVID-19. And till then, I wish really good luck to all of you. Thank you, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. You have discussed about uncertainties to be solved in the campus, concrete measures to be taken in academic activities, importance of collective learning, measures to be taken and challenges to be faced by the college, how to handle student gathering, staggerings of timetables, safety measures in classrooms, awareness about the situations to the students, which is most important. I, on behalf of KBN College, convey you that we will implement all the protocols and safety measures, and I hope all other participants to implement them in their organizations. With this, day one webinar closes, and we will meet in tomorrow's webinar at 10 a.m. Tomorrow, we have a practical session on Google Classrooms and Google Forms, which will be even more interesting. Thank you. Thank you, one and all.